Stop for a moment and listen closely, because what you're about to hear could genuinely change the way you think about your health starting today. Not in a dramatic, exaggerated way, but in a practical, evidence-based way that most people never get told, especially if you're over 50. The truth is, a large part of modern healthcare focuses on detecting disease after it begins, not preventing it before it starts. And that leaves a massive gap, one that simple daily habits can actually fill. Now imagine this. What if the most powerful protection against cancer isn't locked inside a prescription bottle, but built into your everyday routine? That's exactly what years of scientific research are beginning to confirm. After more than 2 decades of studying how the body defends itself at a cellular level, researchers have uncovered something striking. A specific set of daily behaviors can reduce overall cancer risk by up to 61% in adults over 50. Not 10%, not 20%, but more than half. And the most surprising part? These aren't expensive treatments or complicated protocols. They are basic actions, things you can start tomorrow morning without spending a single dollar. But here's where it gets interesting. These habits aren't equal. Some offer small support, while others fundamentally change how your body functions, especially as you age. And the order matters, because each one builds on the next, creating a layered defense system inside your body. By the time we reach the final habit, you'll see why most people are unknowingly getting it wrong and how fixing that one mistake alone could dramatically shift your long-term health. Before we go deeper, think about this for a second. When was the last time a doctor sat down with you and explained how to actively prevent cancer, not just screen for it? For most people, that conversation never happens. Not because doctors don't care, but because the system simply isn't built around prevention. It's built around treatment. And that's exactly why this information matters. Let's begin with something so simple that most people ignore it completely, even though it quietly affects nearly every system in your body. The 5th habit on this list is morning hydration, specifically drinking around 16 to 20 ounces of water right after you wake up before anything else. No coffee, no food, no scrolling through your phone, just water. At first glance, it sounds almost too basic to matter. But the biology behind it tells a very different story. As you get older, your body's ability to signal thirst weakens. This means you can be dehydrated without even realizing it. Studies have shown that many adults over 60 operate below optimal hydration levels on a daily basis, even when they feel completely fine. And this matters more than most people understand. Your body relies on water to support the lymphatic system, which acts like an internal cleaning network. It helps remove waste, damaged cells, and unwanted materials that could otherwise build up over time. When hydration drops, this system slows down. And when that happens, inflammation begins to rise. Chronic, low-level inflammation is now recognized as one of the key environments where cancer can develop. There's more. Proper hydration also supports a process called autophagy. Think of it as your body's internal recycling system, where damaged cell parts are broken down and removed before they can cause problems. As you age, this process naturally becomes less efficient, but something as simple as staying properly hydrated can help maintain it. So how do you actually apply this? Keep a glass or bottle of water near your bed. As soon as you wake up, drink it completely before doing anything else. If you want to enhance it slightly, add a bit of fresh lemon. Not for flavor alone, but because it contains natural compounds that may support your body even further. And here's where the real power begins to show. If you combine that morning hydration with just a few minutes of light movement, even walking around your home, you begin to stimulate circulation and lymphatic flow at the same time. This creates a compounding effect where your body starts the day in a clean, active, and balanced state. This first step may seem small, but it sets the foundation for everything that follows. Because once your internal systems are properly supported, what you choose to add next becomes far more effective. And that brings us directly into the next habit, one that works deep inside your gut and plays a far bigger role in cancer prevention than most people realize. Now that your body has been properly supported from the inside with something as simple as morning hydration, the next step builds directly on that foundation, and this is where things begin to get much more powerful. Because what you introduce into your system next doesn't just fuel your body, it actively shapes how your immune system behaves, how inflammation is controlled, and how your body responds to potential threats over time. The 4th habit on this list is something that has existed for thousands of years, long before modern medicine began studying it seriously. Yet only recently has science started to fully understand just how important it is. We're talking about fermented foods, natural, living foods like yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, and miso. These are not trends or health fads. They are some of the most biologically active foods you can consume, especially as you age. Here's why this matters. Inside your body lives a vast ecosystem of bacteria known as the gut microbiome. This system doesn't just help you digest food, it plays a direct role in regulating inflammation, supporting your immune defenses, and even influencing how cells grow and repair themselves. When your microbiome is balanced and diverse, your body is far better equipped to protect itself. But when that balance is disrupted, the opposite happens. As we get older, this balance becomes more fragile. The diversity of beneficial bacteria tends to decline, and the gut lining itself becomes more permeable. This means harmful substances that are normally kept contained can begin to enter the bloodstream, triggering a steady state of inflammation. And as you already know, chronic inflammation creates the exact conditions where many diseases, including cancer, are more likely to develop. This is where fermented foods come in. They introduce beneficial bacteria directly into your system, helping restore balance and strengthen the gut environment. Research has shown that people who regularly consume fermented foods experience a measurable reduction in inflammatory markers, some of which are directly linked to cancer progression. To understand how this works, think of your gut as a controlled environment. When beneficial bacteria thrive, they produce compounds called short-chain fatty acids. One of the most important of these is butyrate. This compound doesn't just support gut health, it actually communicates with cells in a way that encourages damaged or abnormal cells to shut down before they can become a problem. In simple terms, it helps your body quietly deal with potential threats early. There are real-life examples of how impactful this can be. Individuals with long-standing inflammation and digestive issues have seen significant improvements after introducing just 1 or 2 servings of fermented foods into their daily routine. Within a matter of weeks to months, markers of inflammation drop, energy levels improve, and overall well-being begins to shift. And this isn't due to medication, it's the result of restoring balance where it matters most. Now, here's something important to understand. Not all fermented foods are equally effective. Many store-bought products are pasteurized, which means the beneficial bacteria have been destroyed during processing. What you want are foods that clearly state live and active cultures. These are the ones that still contain the microorganisms your body needs. In terms of application, the goal is simple. Aim for 1 to 2 servings per day. This could be a bowl of plain yogurt or kefir in the morning, or a small portion of sauerkraut or kimchi alongside your meals. The key is consistency, not quantity. Your microbiome responds best to steady, repeated exposure. And just like the previous habit, there's a way to amplify the effect even further. If you combine fermented foods with what are known as prebiotic foods, such as garlic, onions, leeks, or slightly unripe bananas, you create an environment where beneficial bacteria don't just survive, they multiply. Prebiotics act as fuel for these bacteria, strengthening their impact over time. So now, think about what you've done so far. You've supported your body's natural cleansing systems through hydration, and you've begun strengthening your internal defense system through gut health. Already, you are influencing some of the most important biological processes linked to long-term health. But here's where things take a significant leap forward. Because the next habit doesn't just support your body, it actively changes the environment inside it. It affects how your body uses energy, how your cells function, and even how potential cancer cells behave. And most people believe they're already doing it correctly, when in reality, they're missing the most important part. Up to this point, you've already started strengthening 2 of the most important internal systems your body relies on: hydration and gut health. Both of these quietly support your body in ways most people never think about. But now we move into something far more active, something that doesn't just support your biology, but directly influences how your body creates energy, how your cells behave, and even how hostile your internal environment becomes to disease. The third habit is walking, but not the casual, slow, distracted walking most people are used to. What we're talking about here is something much more intentional, what researchers now refer to as metabolic walking. And the difference between the two is not small. It's the difference between simply moving your body and actually activating powerful protective mechanisms inside it. At a basic level, your body runs on 2 primary fuel sources, glucose and oxygen. Every cell uses these in different proportions depending on its function. But here's something critical that has been consistently observed in scientific research. Certain abnormal cells, including cancer cells, rely heavily on glucose and are far less efficient at using oxygen. This creates a unique opportunity. When you engage in sustained, moderate intensity movement, your body begins to shift how it uses energy. Blood sugar levels start to decrease as your muscles use glucose for fuel, while oxygen delivery throughout your body increases. In simple terms, you are creating an internal environment where healthy cells thrive, but problematic cells struggle to survive. This is why metabolic walking is so specific. It's not about speed or exhaustion, it's about maintaining a steady pace where your heart rate is elevated enough to challenge your system, but not so intense that you burn out quickly. A good way to measure this is simple. You should be able to talk while walking, but not comfortably sing. That's the zone where the real benefits begin. Now here's where it becomes even more important as you age. After the age of 60, your body's energy-producing structures called mitochondria begin to decline in both number and efficiency. These are essentially the power generators inside your cells. When they weaken, your body becomes less efficient at producing energy, and this decline is strongly linked to both aging and disease progression. But there's good news. One of the most effective ways to stimulate the creation of new healthy mitochondria is sustained moderate movement. In other words, consistent walking doesn't just maintain your health, it actively upgrades your body at a cellular level. It signals your system to rebuild and improve its internal energy network. Let's make this practical. The goal is 30 to 45 minutes of continuous walking, at least 5 days a week. Ideally, this should happen in the morning, before your first full meal. Why? Because walking in a slightly fasted state enhances your body's ability to use stored glucose, making the process even more effective. There's also a powerful mental shift that happens here. When people begin this routine consistently, they often stop seeing walking as exercise and start seeing it as medicine. Not in a metaphorical sense, but in a very real, biological way. Because each session is actively influencing your internal environment in a direction that supports long-term health. Now, let's take this a step further. When you combine this walking habit with the first two, hydration and gut health, you start to see a compounding effect. Hydration supports circulation, walking enhances it, and gut health ensures your internal systems are functioning optimally. Together, they form a powerful baseline that most people never reach. There's one more layer that makes this even more effective. If you can walk in natural daylight, especially in the morning, you begin to regulate your circadian rhythm. This is your body's internal clock, which controls sleep, hormone production, and even immune function. Exposure to morning light sends a signal to your body that helps synchronize these processes, creating a more stable and efficient system overall. So now, step back and look at what you've built so far. You've improved hydration, strengthened your gut, and activated your body through intentional movement. Already you are operating at a level far beyond the average routine most people follow. But here's where things start to get even more precise. Because the next habit isn't about movement, it's about a specific group of foods that interact directly with your genetic system. Not just supporting your health, but actually activating protective pathways inside your DNA. And the way most people prepare these foods completely cancels out their most powerful benefits. By now, you've started to see a pattern forming. Each habit is not isolated, it builds on the previous one, strengthening your body layer by layer. Hydration improved your internal flow. Fermented foods stabilized your gut. Metabolic walking activated your energy systems. And together, they begin to shift your body into a more resilient state. Now we move into something even more precise, something that works not just at the level of organs or systems, but directly at the level of your genes. This is where nutrition stops being just food for energy and becomes something much more powerful, information for your cells. The second habit is centered around a group of compounds found in cruciferous vegetables. You've probably heard of them before. Broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and kale. But among all of these, one stands out as especially powerful: broccoli sprouts. What makes them so important isn't just what they contain, but what they can trigger inside your body. The key compound here is sulforaphane, and what makes sulforaphane remarkable is not simply that it acts as an antioxidant or anti-inflammatory agent, but that it activates a master control system inside your cells known as NRF2. Think of NRF2 as a central switchboard that regulates your body's defense and repair mechanisms. When NRF2 is activated, it doesn't just influence one or two processes. It switches on hundreds of protective genes at once. These genes are responsible for detoxification, DNA repair, and cellular defense. In simple terms, it helps your body identify damage early and repair it before it becomes a serious problem. But here's the critical issue most people don't realize. As you age, this system becomes less active. Research shows that NRF2 activity naturally declines significantly between the ages of 50 and 70. That means your body's internal repair systems become slower, less responsive, and less efficient right at the time when you need them most. This is where sulforaphane becomes so important. It essentially helps reactivate this system. It doesn't replace your body's natural defenses, it reawakens them. It signals your cells to return to a more protective, responsive state. Now, there's another layer to this that makes it even more powerful. Some studies suggest that sulforaphane doesn't just support general cellular health, it may also target particularly dangerous cell types, including those that can lead to cancer recurrence. These are often referred to as cancer stem cells, which are more resistant to conventional treatments. The idea here is not about treatment, but about prevention, reducing the conditions that allow abnormal cells to persist in the first place. However, there is a major mistake that almost everyone makes when consuming these foods. Sulforaphane is not stored directly in vegetables. Instead, it is created when a compound called glucoraphanin comes into contact with an enzyme called myrosinase. This reaction is what produces the active form your body needs. And here's where preparation becomes critical. When you cook cruciferous vegetables at high temperatures, you destroy that enzyme. This means the very process that makes these foods powerful can also eliminate their benefits if done incorrectly. Fully boiled or overcooked broccoli, for example, contains far less active sulforaphane than lightly prepared or raw versions. The most effective approach is surprisingly simple. Lightly chop or crush the vegetables and allow them to sit for a short period before cooking. This gives the chemical reaction time to occur. Even better, lightly steaming them preserves more of the active compounds. And at the top of the list, broccoli sprouts require no cooking at all and contain significantly higher concentrations of sulforaphane than mature broccoli. A practical target is simple: a small serving of broccoli sprouts daily or a cup of lightly prepared cruciferous vegetables. Consistency matters far more than large amounts. There's also a powerful synergy here that enhances the effect even further. When these vegetables are paired with foods like mustard seeds, radish, or other naturally enzyme-rich ingredients, the activation process becomes stronger. This increases the availability of sulforaphane in your body, allowing you to get more benefit from the same amount of food. So now you've reached a deeper level of intervention. You're no longer just supporting your body's systems, you are actively influencing genetic pathways that control repair, defense, and cellular resilience. But there is still one final piece. One final system that ties everything together. Because even with perfect hydration, gut health, movement, and nutrition, there is one biological process that determines how effectively your body can actually use all of it. And most people unknowingly disrupt it every single day. At this stage, you've built a powerful foundation inside your body. You've improved hydration, supported your gut microbiome, activated your metabolism through walking, and even influenced your genetic repair systems through nutrition. Each layer has added protection, stability, and resilience. But there is still one final system that quietly controls how effective all of this truly becomes. And here is the truth most people overlook. If this final system is not functioning properly, even the best habits lose a large portion of their impact. Because this last factor is not about what you do during the day, it's about what your body is allowed to do at night. The number one habit for cancer prevention after 50 is sleep. But not just sleeping more or going to bed earlier. What truly matters is something researchers describe as oncological sleep architecture. The quality, depth, and timing of your sleep cycles, which directly influence your body's most important repair and defense systems. To understand why this matters, you need to know what happens when you enter deep sleep. During the deepest stages of sleep, your brain activates a system called the glymphatic system. Think of it as a nightly cleaning process. It flushes out toxins, clears waste proteins, and removes cellular debris that accumulates throughout the day. It is essentially your brain's maintenance cycle, and it only works properly when sleep is deep and uninterrupted. But the effects go far beyond the brain. During deep sleep, your body also produces its highest levels of melatonin. Most people think of melatonin as a sleep hormone, but in reality, it is one of the most powerful protective molecules your body produces naturally. It acts as an antioxidant, supports immune function, and plays a role in regulating abnormal cell growth. Here's where the concern begins. As we age, melatonin production declines significantly. By the time many people reach their 62nd, 70s, levels can be a fraction of what they were in younger years. That means one of your body's strongest internal defense systems is operating at reduced capacity, especially if sleep quality is poor. Research has shown that melatonin also helps regulate processes that prevent the formation of new blood vessels in abnormal cells. Without this control, damaged or abnormal cells may have a better chance of surviving and expanding. In addition, melatonin supports immune cells that actively patrol the body and identify threats before they develop into larger problems. Now consider what happens when sleep is disrupted. Late-night screen exposure, irregular sleep schedules, and poor sleep environments all interfere with these processes. Even small amounts of light at night can suppress melatonin production. And over time, this disruption adds up in a way most people never realize. Large-scale studies have found a strong association between chronic sleep disruption and increased health risks, including cancer. Not because sleep alone causes disease, but because it weakens the body's ability to repair and regulate itself. When sleep is compromised, every other system you've worked to improve hydration, movement, nutrition becomes less effective. This is why sleep is not just another habit. It is the control center that determines how well everything else functions. So what does proper sleep actually look like in practice? First, consistency is essential. Going to bed and waking up at the same time every day helps stabilize your internal clock. Your body responds to rhythm, not randomness. Second, your environment matters more than most people realize. A cool, dark room supports deeper sleep cycles. Even small amounts of light can interfere with melatonin production. So minimizing light exposure is critical. Third, timing of food intake plays a role. Eating too close to bedtime forces your body to focus on digestion instead of repair. Allowing a few hours between your last meal and sleep gives your body space to shift into recovery mode. Finally, reducing stimulation before bed is key. Screens, bright lights, and mental overload all delay the transition into deep sleep, which is where the most important biological processes occur. When you optimize sleep, something powerful happens. Your body begins to integrate everything else more effectively. The benefits of hydration become more stable. The effects of movement become more efficient. Nutrition has a stronger impact. Everything works better because your system is fully supported during its most critical recovery phase. And this is the real takeaway. These 5 habits are not separate strategies. They are a connected system. Each one strengthens a different part of your biology, but sleep is what brings them all together. Hydration keeps your system flowing. Fermented foods stabilize your gut. Walking activates your metabolism. Cruciferous vegetables support your genetic defenses. And sleep ensures all of it is repaired, organized, and optimized every single night. This is not about perfection. It is about direction. Small, consistent improvements in these areas can create meaningful changes over time, especially after 50. If you take nothing else from this, remember this simple truth. Your body is not declining randomly. It is responding to inputs. And when those inputs improve, your body responds in powerful, measurable ways. Now I want to hear from you. Out of all 5 habits, which one are you going to start first?